Hey lore lovers, my name's Eric with the Lorebrarians YouTube channel, and today we'll be delving through dusty tomes and scattered histories as we explore the lore behind one of the most sinister beings to ever grace Dominaria and the planes beyond. From humble beginnings, this character's descent into madness and darkness brought about the collapse of several civilizations just before and well into the Time of Ice. A character whose machinations and ambitions spared no one, and who just as readily turned on their allies as attacked their enemies, whose name and image appeared in several cards throughout MTG's history, but only just received their first printing in the recent Commander Legends set. This is the story of Tevesh Szat, Doom of Fools, and his millennia-long rampage across the planes within the Shard of the 12 Worlds. But before we begin, if you're a fan of lore and storytelling, or if Magic the Gathering is dear to you, consider subscribing to the channel where lore videos are uploaded weekly. The support is much appreciated. Alright, let's dive in. Tevesh Szat, the Serpent, the Doom of Fools. These titles, changing with the times, are all monikers of one man, a planeswalker born before the Brothers' War on the plane of Dominaria, and given the name Tev Loneglade. Tev lived near the coast of the island continent of Sarpedia alongside his sister Tlakealel, where 5 powerful empires maintained a fragile balance. The siblings spent much of their youth in the white-aligned empire of Acacia, whose holy orders abhorred and hunted the black-aligned order of the Ebon Hand. His early life is not well documented, but at some point Tev's spark ignited and he ascended to planeswalker status. The two siblings retained a very strong connection. With agelessness and immense stores of power, Tev realized that he would outlive his sister, and not wanting to witness her death, he bestowed eternal youth on Tlakealel. Inseparable and immortal, the siblings traveled to Terracier and Argoth with apparently disastrous results, likely stirring up conflict and unrest due to their power. It was during their travels that Tev grew weary of civilization and other beings. As a godlike planeswalker, he no longer shared the mortal traits of those around him. He slowly turned within himself and became reclusive, his love for Tlakealel his only tether to humanity. His sister did not share his views and even saw the eternal youth Tev bestowed on her a curse rather than a blessing. Tlakealel sought death in the glory of battle, and the two siblings who were so intimate grew estranged from another. After they returned to Sarpedia, Tev retreated to the forests of Havenwood, where he led a life of indifference, not caring for the struggles of the empires. His absolute power brought about absolute contempt for the trifles and squabbling of mortals, and Tev became an isolationist, caring only for the safety of his sister. Tlakealel, on the other hand, had affairs with both the Acacian priest Oliver Farrell and the dwarf Kaelin, which earned her a seat within the dwarven court, and she participated in political intrigue. Not long after, the dwarf kingdom was attacked by a combined orc-goblin army from the mountains, and Kaelin was killed. Despite her skill in combat, Tlakealel may very well have joined her lover, if not for the interference of Tev, who protected his sister as they retreated. Tlakealel pleaded with her brother, requesting Tev's aid in defeating the goblin and orc army, and protecting the empires from devolving into chaos. But Tev would have none of it. He maintained a strict stance of indifference. As they fled into Havenwood, the siblings were ambushed by Oliver Farrell and a contingent of Acacian priests turned zealots, who believed that Tlakealel, due to her immortality, was the reincarnation of the vile Torok. In the heat of fighting, Tev became separated from his sister, who was captured by the Knights of the Ebon Hand. As he scoured Havenwood for his beloved sister, Tev's grip on reality and humanity began to slip. Tlakealel was the only thing that kept him grounded, and as he feared her death, he began his descent into madness. His human body became disfigured and twisted, and he took on a draconic serpentine appearance. The Ebon Hand used Tlakealel as bait to lure Oliver Farrell and his Farrellite zealots into a trap. The two had a romantic affiliation in years prior that the Ebon Hand wanted to exploit. Their plan went awry when Farrell entered the camp and stabbed Tlakealel to death in roughly 170 AR. Sensing the loss of his beloved sister, Tev Loneglade was racked with grief and consumed by madness. His tether was severed, and he slipped further and further into the abyss. Beyond the point of redemption and completely draconic in appearance, Tev flew to the camp of the Ebon Hand and obliterated it with a fireball, incinerating Farrell and the leader of the Ebon Hand. In the Inferno, the persona of Tev Loneglade was consumed, and from the ashes, the vile planeswalker Tevesh Szat was born. His one mission, to end the corruption of mortals and their petty kingdoms, to kill all life, to seek a world filled only with silence. Szat's first goal was to destabilize and overthrow the empires of Sarpedia, which he accomplished with relative ease. This period of time is highlighted in the set Fallen Empires. He used his powers and a planar gate to summon another combined Orc-Goblin horde to attack the Icatians. Although they held, the once great empire was crumbling. Though no direct connection could be made, it suggested that Tevesh used his powers to multiply the Homerid invasion force overnight, after which they easily defeated the merfolk of Vodalia and sent them scattering. Though the elves and the Even Hand succumbed to their own creations, Thalids and Thralls respectively, Szat no doubt expedited the process. Soon, all that remained of the once great Sarpadian empires was a band of Icatian refugees that sought shelter in the kingdom of Storgard on Tertiaire. The period from 170 AR to roughly 450 AR is known as the Dark Age, not only due to the blotting out of the sun and the cooling of the climate from the Silex blast, but because it was an age in which knowledge and technology regressed, an age in which magic was vilified and distrust ran deep. There are precious few sources of historical text that shed light on the Dark Age, but of those that remain, the details of a serpent that corrupts and destroys can be found. Tevesh Szat busied himself with turning fools against one another as kingdoms and entire empires collapsed from his machinations. Already responsible for the deaths of countless, Szat continued pulling strings and sowing discord well into the Ice Age, where his attention fell on the kingdom of Storgard. By the 2430s AR, Tevesh Szat had used intrigue, deception, extortion, and murder to place himself in the position of dark confidant to the king of Storgard. Under the influence of Szat, King Miko forced the childhood friends Freyalise of Clan Ruby and Jason Carthalion of Clan Emerald to duel, culminating in Freyalise's death and rebirth as an ascended planeswalker. Soon after, the capital city itself was destroyed in a fight between Tevesh, Freyalise, and Jason. The intricate web of lies and corruption that Szat weaved led to the complete unraveling of the once great kingdom. Its self-destruction may be illustrated in the card Dead of Winter, in which Tevesh Szat finally achieved silence. Freyalise and the Carthalion line, however, would continue to foil Szat's plans of silencing the whole of Dominaria for the next several centuries. Both Freyalise and Tevesh were seen as gods by mortals, and both had a large retinue of followers and devotees, which we can see in the flavor text of the card Disciple of Tevesh Szat. The goals of the Planeswalkers were mirror opposites. Where Freyalise wanted to undo the Ice Age and bring life back to Dominaria, Szat sought to amplify the fallout of the Silex blast and destroy all life on the plane. To this end, Szat approached the artificial abominations of Phyrexia, hoping to use their knowledge to activate latent artifacts, remnants of the Brothers' War and before, locked in the glaciers of Tertiaire. He returned to Dominaria in the year 2934, 500 years since the fall of Storgard, to complete his plan and to attend the summit of the Null Moon, a gathering of planeswalkers to deliberate on a way to break the Shard of the 12 Worlds. When the summit devolved into chaos and conflict, instigated by the planeswalker Leshrac, Tevesh confronted his old nemesis Freyalise and nearly killed her. Although Leshrac and his minion Limdul fled to the rogue plane of Chandalar, Tevesh stayed to fulfill his plan. He found the artifacts and was preparing to activate them to fuse their power into the ice and extend the Ice Age indefinitely, but he was confronted by Jaul Carthalion, descendant of Jason, wielding the celestial sword of Freyalise. Legend has it that for 3 days they fought, until Jaul gained the advantage and used the Amulet of Quaz to banish Szat to Chandalar. Thwarted once more, Tevesh Szat found himself on a plane whose protector was quite hostile. The planeswalker Kennen Sarmal defeated both Szat and Leshrac on Chandalar, sending Szat once more across the blind eternities. It's here that Tevesh may have pondered his goals and motives. Instead of creating silence on a plane of noise and chaos, why not travel to a plane already born of silence? So Szat retreated to a plane of perpetual darkness, where he stayed in silence for many years. In the year 4205 AR, despite Urza Planeswalker's attempts to destroy the Phyrexians, the invasion of Dominaria began. A plane-spanning conflict that could very well be the end of Dominaria. Urza knows to truly defeat Phyrexia he must attack it at its source, but he knows that he alone is not strong enough to complete such a task, and so he recruits a contingent of planeswalkers to aid him. This group would become known as the Nine Titans. Outfitted with massive machines of destruction known as Titan engines and equipped with soul bombs, extremely powerful weapons that have the potential to destroy all of Phyrexia. The soul bombs, however, could only be armed by capturing potent enough souls. The sheer number of souls required to fuel the bombs was astronomical, and the Master Wizard Baron deliberated with Urza, stating that it was unethical to subject any soul to the immortal punishment of fueling a soul bomb. Then Urza hatched a plan, one that would provide a single soul that was both potent enough to fuel a bomb, and vile enough to warrant eternal punishment. With haste, Urza traveled to the dark world Tevesh Szat retreated to and asked him to join the Nine Titans. Tevesh had dealings with Phyrexia in the past and was intimate with the layout of the plane. Upon hearing that his old enemies Freyalise and Christina of the Woods were among the Titans, Szat salivated over the opportunity to betray them. He accepted Urza's plea and joined the Titans. Before their assault on Phyrexia, however, Tevesh saw another opportunity to sow destruction on Dominaria. He approached the dragon Darigaz and told him of his past, that the dragon was a reincarnation of one of the 5 primeval dragons, with powers to match the elder dragons themselves. He whispered to the dragon and convinced Darigaz to seek out his lost brethren and restore them to their former glory, which is seen in the card Malicious Advice. With their Titan engines prepared and their soul bombs loaded, the 9 planeswalkers traveled to Phyrexia to deliver a counterstrike that would end the war. Immediately, they were met with waves upon waves of Phyrexian artifacts, and the situation devolved into chaos as Titan engines unleashed explosive salvos and Phyrexian war machines ripped apart the engine's armor. Szat saw his opportunity within the chaos, loosing blasts from his engine and vaporizing Christina of the Woods. He then turned on Daria and ripped her head free from her body with his dragon-like maw. Betrayed by the doom of fools, the remaining Titans could not hope of defeating Phyrexia any longer. But Urza recruited Szat against the advice of the other Titans for one purpose. He knew Tevesh would betray them and had a sort of kill switch planted within the Titan engines that would send damaging electrical currents through the planeswalker's body. He activated Tevesh Szat's, seen in the card Confound, then killed him. With his ethical dilemma now solved, Urza absorbed Tevesh Szat's soul to fuel the soul bombs that would destroy Phyrexia, illustrated in the art and flavor text of Dark Suspicions. After millennia of plotting, overthrowing, and seeking the transformation of Dominaria into a frigid plane of silence, Tev Loneglade, Tevesh Szat, the doom of fools, sealed his own doom, his soul languishing in eternal punishment. Thanks for watching this video on the story of Tev Loneglade and his transformation into Tevesh Szat. Leave a thumbs up if you liked the video and subscribe to the channel for more lore content. And now I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts on Tevesh Szat as well as suggestions for future videos in the comments below. Huge shout out to pianist, composer, and longtime friend Alex Joaquim for composing the intro and outro music. Be sure to check him out through the link in the description. Until next time, go forth and explore the lore.